Hey mama, are you a multi-passionate mom who is juggling all the things, nursing a baby, battling laundry, trying to keep it together and keep a spicy marriage, and feeling like you're feeling all of it? What's up? I'm Ashley Carroll. I'm here to hold your hand through this process because I believe when you're ready to take control of your life, beat the limiting excuses, step into your own power, you can not only survive, but you can thrive. But you're gonna have to show up for yourself. It's time for me to tough love your way through prioritization, taking self-care seriously, getting rid of excuses, reconnecting with your family, kids, and spouse, and quite honestly, learning to love the chaos because the glory is in the journey. It's in the mess. In this podcast, you will find balance for busy mamas, navigating mom guilt, time management strategies, and everything in between with no fluff and lots of fun. Let's go. Holy shnikes, guys. I don't know if you knew what you're in for when you were like, yes, let's hear about Ashley. Let's learn all about her. If you're just now listening, hey guys, what's up? This is part 2 to sharing my personal story with you guys so that we can know better the behind the scenes, behind the mic of who I am. And if you haven't listened to part 1, definitely go back and listen. Otherwise, you're just going to hop in the middle of a hot mess story and you're going to be like, what the F? Like, I don't even know who, like, bride, like huge eyes, you know? So let's listen to that. But again, let me say that this is not a story or a time to be sharing with your fam what you're learning on my podcast. Not a day for that. If you have kiddos that can hear, I suggest putting in earpods, earbuds, earpods. I don't even know is that what they're called? No, they're called earbuds. Headphones. Put on your walkie-talkie, guys. And like listen when you have some time and your kiddos aren't there to listen. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. So let's hop in, guys. And in the first part, there was a lot of open-ended situations that I promise you are going to come to a full circle situation and we're going to get some closure, okay? Now we're talking like I'm in middle school, high school. We moved to Texas. We moved to good old Tejas, into a town. I initially lived in California this whole time, like hundreds of thousands of people, right? Like hundreds of thousands. I took the bus to the beach like by 4th grade on my own, back and forth, took the city bus. Like I was a very independent child, did all the things, rode my bike around the city, like walked everywhere. Then moved me my freshman year to Texas, to an East Texas city of like 3,000 people. At the time it had 3,000 people, no sidewalks. No Walmart, literally not even a Walmart. I remember there being a Dairy Queen and a dollar store. Yes, an off-brand dollar store. Like it wasn't even like legit the dollar store or Dollar General. It was like some off-brand. You had to drive 30 minutes to the next biggest city to get like all the things. And my mom and I, it was just her and I, and we were living with my sister, and it was a bad situation because they had a small house. They had a house big enough for them, which even some of their kids were sharing rooms. Add in my mom and I to share a room as well with them. It was a recipe for disaster. I was like the only kid in my high school at the time wearing Vans and Dickies jeans, which I got made fun of and like insanely because I was so different, but at the same time, like, what the crap, guys. They like 3 years later, Vans and all this stuff became like the rage. So I hate y'all. Y'all were rude. I was ahead of the game. But like, yeah, so we eventually get enough money. Like our car got repoed. My mom couldn't find a job. She's in like her 50s or yeah. So like finding a job at 50 is extremely hard in a town of 4,000 when like there's literally no place to work unless you have a car. So our car got repoed. We got kicked out of my sister's because, you know, it's creating conflict. You can't have a bunch of people in a small space like that, especially if there's dirty water, you know, like just living with other people is not always good. I don't know how families that are multi-family houses do that well, but kudos to you guys. I aspire to that. But if you're in my kitchen, like I hate you. Get out of my kitchen right now. These are my things. Don't touch that. Like, so, I get it. I understand. We moved into like a single wide trailer, which was a dump. We found a cat. I have no idea how I found him. I named him Basin because he was like losing all this hair. And I'm pretty sure he had cancer. He died like relatively quickly, but he at least kept the mice away that was in our trailer, our single wide trailer, which also absolutely grossly had a septic tank that was leaking in our front yard. There was like literally no, I mean, it was just a single wide trailer in between. It looked like somebody just stuck it there to like for keeping and like let it rot, and it was just awful. So I had to either take the bus or hitch a ride. But then when people would hitch a ride, like if a dude, like I had a neighbor who would help me out because he knew that I was riding the bus with all my things. I was a charity case cheerleader. So I had like, I was also in band. So I would have like, and soccer at one point. So I'd have like all these bags to carry on the bus, which is ridiculous trying to walk through that walkway and all the things. And because I live so far out from our high school, I would have to like get up super dang early to like get on this bus to like, you know, pick up everybody along the way and yada yada. And so I had a neighbor that lived like the next street over, and he was already driving. And so he would take me, but then his girlfriend got pissed that he was like taking me to school. I was a charity case girl. Like, you had nothing to worry about. Kid was just trying to be nice. I'm pretty sure he felt bad for me. But so she got mad, and so he had to stop taking me. So I was on the bus again. But, you know, and now around this time, my mom is also diabetic. Right before we moved, she got diagnosed with diabetes, I think type 2. And so we're poverty stricken. We're out in the boonies. We're like isolated. We're poor. Her health, she's working nights at this point, my mom. So I have all day to myself. Like, I think her schedule was like 5 until like 3 or 4 in the morning. It was insane. And so I was by myself a lot. And her health obviously took a toll. And so there was multiple times where I had to call the ambulance because her sugar would get too low, and they would have to kind of try to bring her back up. And if you've ever seen a diabetic sugar get really low, it's like dealing with a toddler. So here I am at high school, and I'm like, Mom, you have to drink this orange juice. You have to take this tablet. Let me give you this piece of candy. No, I don't want to. And also, if you've ever heard, forever it will haunt me, the wailing that they do when they're low, because they get emotional and they're not in their right mind. And so there's like this loud screaming, like wailing. But imagine it coming from an adult. It's like your child throwing a tantrum and also crying like from an adult. It's insane. It's hard to hear. And so I'm dealing with that while trying to maintain high school and all the things that you go through high school on a normal circumstance. Is so crazy. Like, you know, dating for normality reasons. Like, I mean, come on, making friends. I'm the new person, you know, maintaining grades, doing homework. And so then I get this job. I'm working, I get my driver's license at 14. There is such a thing in Texas to get a hardship license when you live and you're out far and you're dealing with hardship and you need to be able to drive and provide for your family. So I got this driving license at 14, which y'all was awful idea. For one, I'll tell you the funny story is that I went to take this test. For one, nobody actually drove with me this whole time. We did this at home driving to where like you have to document like how many times your parent rode with you and like blah, blah, blah. And we totally fudged those numbers. Nobody drove with me. My mom was working all night and it was just her and I. Okay. So like nobody did that. I had like 1 or 2 driving quote unquote lessons with people. And it was, the first one was that somebody that my mom was working with, he had a truck and he had to like go mow a lawn. I don't remember the whole story by now, but like I was driving this truck and it was a stick shift truck while pulling a lawnmower on a trailer. Y'all, are you kidding me? Like talk about like throwing the sheep to the wolves. That was my first time learning how to drive. Coincidentally, my first car was a beater Nissan truck that was stick shift. But like I said, it was not a good idea because I drove that thing into the ground. It was literally held up by duct tape, which my high school friends can attest to. It literally had duct tape on it. And it was from a pest control company. Like they had gotten new trucks. I don't even know if this is relevant to you guys. I don't know. I'm just sharing now. But it was from a pest control company, and I had taken off the sticker, like their logo on the side of the truck, and I tried so hard to, but the remaining outline of the sticker from like the sticky stuff was still on there. So even though like the color and like, you know, when you pull a sticker off and like, okay, the top part of it comes off, but then you can still see like the square shape where the sticker was. That's exactly what was on the side of my truck, but in this like pest control logo form. Okay. Like obviously your girl had a hard time in high school. Like me pulling up in that thing, it was awful. Anyways, so I at this time get a job. So I am now charity case cheerleader. I got the position by default. I was by no means probably anywhere close to being a decent cheerleader. I couldn't afford it. So somebody donated the money for me to get a uniform and all the things. And then I was also playing soccer at the time. And then I also had a job at Wendy's, and I worked there from 5 p.m. So I would do high school, and then after school, I would do soccer, cheerleading, and then immediately go to work at 5. And then I wouldn't get off until like anywhere between 10 and like 1 a.m. in the morning, because now the place that I'm working at, that I'm trying to find, stability in and financial help in, also has people that work there that do drugs. So I did all the jobs. I did more than I was probably supposed to, and I took on the responsibilities of more than I was supposed to, and so it was a hot mess. But I managed to upkeep my grades somehow. I don't know. I would take my books up there and do my work. So I did that repeatedly for a long amount of time, and throughout this period of high school, I don't have a father figure. I'm still wrestling with, who I am, what this means that I've been rejected. And honestly, I'm pretty optimistic, even though I'm carrying all this baggage. But I did not realize the line that was drawn for me socioeconomically until I started dating. My first boyfriend was one of the main players on our football team, and in Texas, football is everything. So the fact that we were dating was a huge deal in and of itself. And then come to find out that he is actually from a very well-to-do family in that town. So here I come in this single wide, barely standing trailer. My mom is driving like a Geo, at this point, it's like a beater car. And he has this immaculate house. His family has new, nice cars, immaculate, on acres of land, immaculate, just insane. And I remember just being so shameful of his family seeing where I live. I did not want them to take me home, which I avoided all costs any time that they would. But I remember him breaking up with me and immediately knowing that it was because I did not fit in with him or his family or his friends or, that. And so whether or not that be true, hindsight or whatever, that was the pivotal moment in my high school that I was like, wow, this is the lie that I started to believe for the rest of my life, that I deserved a certain type of person, a certain type of lifestyle, this is what was written out for me, and there could be no other way. And that would forever define me for a long time, of my bar of acceptance of how I was treated, who I dated, what I deserved, who I hung out with, how I treated myself, how I treated my body, everything. So here is what high school was like for me, basically, is that my whole life up until this point was trying to find fulfillment and acceptance by somebody who ultimately rejected me, all the males in my life, right? Because now I'm in high school, my parents split up again, right? And I live with my mom, and now this pivotal moment has happened where a defining line has been made for me of who I am and what other people see me as. And so now I have this bar set of expectations for myself of this is what life is supposed to be like for you. This is all that it will amount to because you're in this certain category. And as I was growing up, I was always complimented on my looks. Wow, you're so pretty. You have such pretty eyes. Oh my gosh, you're so pretty. Wow, you're so pretty. All the time. And so I had these two things going for me. I could only be in this category and my looks. Right? Fast forward to finding somebody reach out to me, a girl that was in the in crowd, right? Thanks to AOL, somehow we connected, and she was friendly and invited me into her space and her friendship. And we created a very close-knit bond, which I was extremely thankful for because I was completely shut out from all people. I had nobody to hang out with when I first moved there, and I was the new kid, and So her inviting me into that space was both bittersweet, because now that these things are transpiring, right, it's creating a perfect storm, because now I'm trying to mask a lot of pain, a lot of hurts that I don't understand. And it was the perfect gateway to all the things, popularity, through doing things that I wish that I had never done. And this is the part that I think is hard for most people, and it's hardest for me to talk about, because when you talk about childhood trauma, those are things that are done to you, or things that you weren't responsible for because other people put you in those positions and you had no control over the situation. When you become a teenager, a lot of the times you can still be put in those situations, but there's other certain scenarios to where you made the choice. You put yourself in that position. You did the things, and I can't undo those things. I can't undo the way that you see me once I tell you about them. I can't prevent you from judging me when I tell you about those things. And so I think we hold on so tightly to our stories and our past because we don't want that for ourselves. We don't want people to see us in a different light, especially if we're in a space of like, look at me, I can help you with this. But what's funny is that like those things that are painful and that we experience and the choices that we made, like all those things enable us to be able to help others. And so we should see it as such a beautiful thing, right? Like such a great thing that, yes, we went through hardships and dark times, but on the other side of it, now we can help so many other people. And so it's a beautiful kind of gifting at the end of healing and coming to, but when you're talking about your life in hindsight and what had happened, there's a lot of shame and stuff that goes with that as well. So here I am in high school, and now all my aspirations is to find somebody to love me, because initially that is what I'm searching for, is somebody to love me, to make me feel secure, to make me feel safe, to make me feel acknowledged, like all the things, right? And I'm hoping that I can find it in somebody else because I'm lacking it in myself. I have no idea how to find it in myself. I spent many of my nights running around a local park praying. Throughout this whole experience, I never had once. I had only my who I would call, my dad at the time, who was helped raise me when I was younger, who initially wasn't my dad. His mother was religious, and so she introduced me to faith, and that's the only person in my whole family that could give me that perspective. For some reason, I held on to it, and I was able to pray throughout my entire life, just praying, talking to God, like in my head all the time. And I had no idea what I was doing. It just felt natural, and I did it all the time. So I would run around and just like, Lord, like, hear me, help me, all these things. And I ended up dating anybody and everybody who I felt like was the epitome of what I deserved or what I could aspire to. And I really wanted to heal people. I think because I couldn't control my own pain or my own healing, if I could just heal other people, I would somehow feel whole again. And so I dated broken people. There was a lot of drug usage, from things very mild and minor to very extreme things that I couldn't imagine myself doing ever, that I found myself actually doing. The city cops at one point were following my car a lot because of the person that I was dating. They were watching for them. They were selling drugs. We were doing drugs. We were drinking. We were partying all the time. And of course, like I mentioned, my mom was never home. So I had the freedom to come and go throughout the night, like for a lot of my high school years. In my circle group, I think I've counted 11 acquaintances and friends within my circle group die from the time I was in high school until my freshman year in junior college. And there were so many funerals that I remember just becoming numb to it, and also having a guilt of I was hanging out with them. Like, these kids were hanging out with me. We couldn't mow our lawn, and so a lot of them ate at our house because my mom and I didn't own a lawnmower, and so our grass always looked awful. And so some of these guy friends that I had would mow the yard because we couldn't pay them, but we could cook, right? Like, my mom was an awesome cook, and so they would come over for the food. They would mow our lawn for food. And so sometimes, their home life wasn't great because whatever I am projecting that I want to heal, right? Like I'm attracting broken people. And so whatever you're attracting, you're bringing in. And so I had a lot of broken people coming through my house. I had people keeping their stuff in my house. And so there was a lot of trauma dealing with, which I still haven't fully, to be honest, like gotten over, because I've had, somebody keep their clothes in my closet who is no longer living because they committed suicide. So for me to be in these positions of why them, why not me? And also, why didn't I see the signs? Like, why couldn't I see that they were hurting so bad? Why didn't I catch it? What could I have done? Why didn't I say the thing that I should have said? Why didn't I check on them sooner? All these things? Why didn't, right? 11 friends. There's another one that hit me deep when I was later in college that just happened to reach out to me out of the blue. And at this point, I'm really distancing myself from this crew. I've made a foundation in an effort to completely erase that, connection between people from my past and now people that I am associating with in my future, in my present time in college. And he reached out to me and for work or something was going to be in my area. And I was like, you know what? No, I don't want to see you. I don't want you to come by. And the very next day he got into a car wreck and died because he was doing, I think he was taking some sort of pill or something, and he passed out while he was driving and his car crashed. And I forever held that and held on to it. It was like, what if I had just let him come by? And like, I could have told him like, hey, there's this other side of things, right? But that is not my burden to bear. That is something that I feel like is a perspective of, I was given this life. I have been given multiple opportunities where I look back and I'm like, man, there's no way that I'm alive after that. It's by God's grace. And honestly, that's what I truly believe, that I'm alive from the things that I was doing, whether the things that I was consuming, putting in my body physically, the situations that I was put in physically, mentally. It's crazy. And so now I'm like, you know what? I need to share this story. And I've wrestled with that for a long time because God gave me, or I felt like God gave me this story for a reason. And whether it's, one person who will reach out to me later on in life, maybe it's my friend's kids or my friend's kids, maybe your friend's kids, right? Or my kids' friends later that they meet that are going through something to where I can speak into their situations to help them find healing or guidance, then it's all worth it. And so back to the story of like, wherever I was, there I went with all my brokenness, all this idealization of what a relationship looks like, which is complete brokenness, right? I have no idea what an actual functional, healthy relationship looks like, because all I know is that it involves a lot of hurt, a lot of dishonesty, a lot of abuse, a lot of yelling, a lot of dysfunctionalism. I don't know what an actual functional relationship looks like. And so when I did finally decide to leave this abusive relationship was because ultimately his parents choked me against a wall. And that is what took me to my breaking point. And then after that, I was just a lot for anybody, to be honest. I didn't know how to exist in any other kind of form, but in a fight or flight mode. So I was always running or I was always fighting. It was survival mode. And if anybody tried to date me, here I come with all this stuff. Like, I don't know how to be a normal teenager. I don't know how to date like a normal teenager. So here I go off to college, right? Which I didn't even have any plan on doing until I remember sitting down with a particular family for dinner one night, and they were a well-off family. Like, I could have never dreamed of owning a house like this or living in this sort of area. I don't even know how their son got involved with me. Like, what did he see in me? I don't know. But like, they asked me one night, like talking about his goals and his aspirations, and he was going to do all these things and go to college and stuff. And I was ashamed of answering because I was like, well, I'm just going to graduate, and my ideal of like, what do you do is you graduate from school as soon as you can, you find a job, like your whole purpose is to find a job, to get by, to have babies and get married. And then I was winning. And so that's what I told them. And it was just like, oh, like, and I was like, wait a minute. That was the first time that I realized that I could actually go to college. And I remember the next day going home, applying to colleges, and like I had no idea where the deadlines was or like when anything needed to be due. I just started like getting online, searching everything I could, doing everything, turning in the things that I could to the places that still allowed me to. And I did end up getting into Texas Tech University, which was amazing and a blessing. I walked out of that university with only $5,000 in debt, which is astounding, especially because I had zero money, guys. Like I had zero money. I remember the only credit card that I could be qualified for was a Victoria's Secret credit card. So anytime anybody needed like a gift or like anything, it was like, oh, I oddly was the friend who gave them something like panties because I really couldn't afford to buy anything. I would just put it on the card and then try to pay it off. And I had food stamps. I was getting city health services for like healthcare and like low income dental care, like everything that you qualify for being poor, I made sure I qualified for and I used because that was the only way I survived. And then I worked all the way through college, which will still circle back to the very intro for the first episode that I made for part 1 of this episode where I was talking about my dream of becoming a pediatrician. I initially, okay, let me clear up 2 things. When I talk about college and then I had that conversation about going to college, I was in junior college. So I was thinking, okay, what is the fastest way to graduate? Like, what can I get out of this 2-year education to get me a job now? And so I was doing like I was hoping I would do sonography, like, you know, sonograms, get my certification in that. And I would graduate, get a job as fast as I could, get married, have babies. Well, then I realized, like, when I had this conversation with them, wow, like, maybe I really could go to a 4-year university. It never dawned on me that that was even an option. Thank goodness for this conversation because I applied for financial aid and scholarships, and I, like, was granted almost a full ride to a 4-year, extremely expensive college. And I majored in pre-med, which was my dream, right? At the beginning of this whole thing. I went to all the classes and I have to work, okay? Mind you, all through high school, my whole life, I've had to pay all my bills. If I had a cell phone, I had to pay it. If I had a car, I had to pay it. Food, pay it. Cheerleading, anything extra I needed to pay it. I needed money. And so I needed money to live. I needed money for gas, like everything. And so here I am, pre-med. I'm getting into my classes and I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I'm not going to survive if I don't go to a study group. So I'm trying to get to all these study groups because the classes are hard. I'm horrible at math, but all the health aspects I'm killing, right? But I still need to study. I still need to memorize because it's a lot. And all these study groups are studying all day during hours that I can't do because I have a job. Like when I'm not at school, I'm working because I need that money. And I'm working double shifts. I'm working all day. I, get promoted to shift manager. Like I am trying to just barely float above. And I realize I cannot do that without taking out more loans. So I changed my major, which was good in and of itself because I really found passion in athletic training. And so I went to school for that. And then I even had to change it again just slightly because I wanted to athletic train professional teams, college teams. But in order to be an athletic trainer, you had to work with the teams and be at their practices, be at their games. And I couldn't do that because I had a job also. So again, I downgraded myself to something more manageable. And then, I'm still walking along. Like, imagine yourself at 19, 20, like, right, guys, we don't even know what we're doing, but I have this hole, several holes that, as you can see throughout my childhood, that I'm carrying these voids, right? And I don't know how to fill these voids. I'm looking at other people like, I can't do it myself. I had this codependency that it had to be found in somebody else. And every time I put all this weight on other people, they would fail me because they aren't Jesus, guys. Like, they can't amount to those things. They can't provide the healing that I need. They can't fill the voids that I have. And so I, for a long time, and even into my marriage, really was in flight or fight mode. I also was trying to heavily control everybody's moves and situations because I wanted to either anticipate the ball dropping before it dropped, or I wanted to prevent myself from being hurt, therefore hurting others first. And I was just a very reactive person. We're getting to the end of my story, guys. So if you're still hanging in here, hang in there a little bit longer with me. I'm going to tie it all together and fast forward to when I'm 21. You know, my husband and I met online through a mutual friend, but I trusted no one. I mean, there were times in my past where I would get so inebriated, or I would take so many things that I would pass out and other people would take advantage of me and then I couldn't remember. And then people would tell me about it later. And then I would have to believe either their truth, or there was one time in particular where I was being shamed for what I did. And I honestly knew that I did not consent to it. And they told me I was a liar. But it was such a foggy, fuzzy moment. But I was certain in that one thing that I had said no several times. Yet everybody else still denied me that truth because of the situation. And so in all these relationships in my marriage, I had to figure out how to heal. Luckily, once we got pregnant with my daughter, our firstborn, my husband was like, we need to go to church. I don't know what compelled him to do this. And I had so much shame in showing up already being pregnant at church, because in my mind, I'm like, you don't do that. They won't accept you. They're going to judge me. They don't know who I am. Nothing can heal me. I'm broken. He doesn't understand me. Like all these things. And then we went, and there was this amazing couple that happened to be our Sunday school teachers. It was called a pre-married, newlywed, nearly wed class, and they just really showed me what marriage looked like. And that was the first time that I was like, oh my gosh, there's honesty in marriage, there's communication in marriage, there's I was just blown away. And so I was devouring every word that they said and taking it all in. And then I was trying to work on myself and work on ourselves, right? Like together, and thank the Lord for my husband that he was like, this is what I need to do. This is what we need to do. And that he stuck in there with me, because I was still 1 foot out the door in my marriage. Because again, all I've known is to be prepared for the ball to drop. And so, I was like, okay, when's he going to cheat on me? When's he going to leave? When is this fairy tale dream going to be over? And yes, we had rocky times and things were painful, and it was hard because we both came from broken, we're both broken people at different varying degrees, right? But still, we're humans, and you have two humans coming together trying to live and coexist and be one. And that's just hard no matter what your past is. And so thank goodness for his patience and for his courage and for his devotion and dedication. And man, because we went through it in our marriage, and it was rough. And for me, my story always comes to, but God, right? I was an abuser of drugs, but God. I was hurt by, this, that, and the other, but God. I was bruised by and scarred by, but God. We were broken, but God. All these things, I don't know any other way to fill these voids other than that. Fast forward to my story just goes on and on, y'all. Just recently, honestly, 3 years ago, I told you guys I didn't know my biological father. I woke up one morning. I'd always tried to search for him throughout these years, my whole life. I'm asking my mom questions, tell me more. I don't know why she wouldn't just give me all the information. She wouldn't. So then and it's always casual, oh, well, his name might be, it might be this. I don't know. Oh, it could be this. Just it was this nonchalant conversation. Never I don't know. I will never understand that. But one day she was like, hey, could be this name. And I kept searching that name at Facebook. Nothing would come up. And you know how some people are named David, but they go by Dave? Well, I was I woke up dead out of my sleep, sat straight up and was like, oh my gosh, this is it. In the middle of the night. And I was like, that's what I need to search. I searched the name, boom. Found him in an instant, looked at his pictures, saw a picture of his son, looked exactly like me. And I was just my stomach dropped. I don't know. It was insane. He lives now 5 minutes away from me, him and my brother. So if you haven't heard that episode, you can go back and listen to how I found my biological father on Facebook. Crazy. We get along fine. He's a great grandfather. It's awesome. But before that, I had to accept the fact that I may never have an earthly father who loves me, who gives me that fairy tale father-daughter relationship. We will never like do this and that and the other. I was fully learning that that's okay. That's okay. That's not my story to tell. That's not part of my journey. And I learned to accept that. Had I not done that, I would carry forever this disappointment and this longing for something. I never fully felt at peace until I was like, okay, you don't need, and that's why, this father-daughter relationship between my husband and my daughter is so important. And the fact that, she watches us date each other, how a real relationship is supposed to be, how men treat women, how dads treat daughters, it all ties in together. And I feel like it is a huge thing, especially for boys to watch and little girls to see. So here's what I've learned. I want to circle this, and bring it all back together, because I feel like if you can resonate with my story at all, if you identify with some of these situations, if you're feeling like, even if, our situations don't match up, that you can still relate to some of the feelings that I was feeling or the feelings that I held on to. It's that I learned that I'm not responsible for my pain, but I am for my healing. And once I realized that I was no longer a victim to all these things, like, yes, microscopically, I was a victim situationally in each of these little nuanced scenarios and situations, right? As a whole, I am not a victim of my life because I am forced to be. I chose to be. So I have the choice to let all these feelings, let all these battles have power over me and over my thoughts and over, the functions of day to day and the choices that I make. Or I can look at it, hindsight and perspective, look back and say, you know what? This happened, but because this happened, I'm going to do this better now. Or because this happened, I'm going to now learn to love myself on my own, or, all these things. And so I want you guys to know, if you're feeling pain right now, like then you're not responsible. Shed the weight of, the burden to bear of other people's hurts and strife towards you, and just take responsibility for healing from that. Like, moving forward, that's not your problem. Those are their problems, right? Your problem is to, okay, this is what happened. Now this is how I'm going to move forward. Also, we have the power to stop the cycle. That was one thing that I was adamant about, is that I never want to parent the way my parents parented. I never want my kids to find out information from anybody else first, because we didn't have those conversations. I don't want, literally everything in parenting, I can look back and say, okay, I didn't like this, so now I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to be ahead of the game. I'm going to have these conversations. I'm going to make sure that I hug my kids. I'm going to make sure that we still kiss each other. I'm going to make sure that they know that they can talk to me about anything. So all the things that I was lacking, or that I felt like the ball was dropped for me, I will never make them feel like they're in an unsafe situation. I will never make them feel like they're responsible for things that are above their age. Now, there are life skills and life experiences that will happen naturally that will bring upon these great benefits for them, but I will not be forced upon in a negative environment. I learned that people don't make me whole. God does. Once I realized that, and I'm sorry if you believe in something else, this is just my story, my personal experience, along with these things that I'm telling you, like tips and like how to move forward. If you don't agree, that's totally your opinion, and we all have different ways of coping and, healing. And so once I realized that people don't make me whole, God does, man, did I find a lot of healing and a lot of freedom. It's been the most beautiful journey moving forward that I've ever experienced. And then also just knowing wherever I am, there I go. I can be in a relationship and it'd be hard. It'd be hard work. Like, my marriage is hard work, right? Like, I'm always having to communicate better or bring more to the table, or grow better. Like, not because it's necessary, but because I want my marriage to thrive. Like, I don't want it just to survive. I want it to thrive. So, and then we're human. So there's conflict and then there's struggle sometimes, right? Well, everybody says like, the grass is greener on the other side. Well, yeah, but even if you go to the other side, you are going to the other side as well. So if you think that you have problems right now within your marriage or within a relationship or this, that, and the other, well, guess what? It's going to show up there too because you haven't solved your problems. You haven't healed from your past. You're going to take your baggage and your trauma along with you, and it's going to show up and it's going to rear its ugly head just with a different person in a new place. So for me, I think that ties into a lot of what I do here and why you guys see that I always aim for getting to a holistic approach, the root cause, knowing that we can take care of all the superficial that we want, but the root cause always comes to the top. It always will rear its ugly head. You can put all of the non-toxic makeup on your face, right? Like this is the metaphor that I like to think about, is that like you can use all the clean products in the world. You can use but if you're putting Doritos and Cheez-Its and soda inside your body, all those pimples are going to show, girl. Like you can be using like the cleanest makeup in the world and all those pimples are going to show because all the inside is rotting. There's, like it's inflamed. It's full of junk. Like, and sooner or later, it's going to show up. It's going to come to the surface. Like I said in the other episode, at the end of it, I said, if you think you can't heal, you can. You absolutely can. If you think you're not worthy of love, you are. You absolutely are. I'm telling you right now, and I want you to hear me say that. And I want you to fully know that you are so worthy of love. You're worthy of healing. You're worthy of a better future. You are able to not be shamed by your past. There's a quote from Glennon Doyle Melton, who I don't agree with a lot of what she says, but I will agree with this quote that she said. Shame is the kiss of death. It's not like the pain of life that takes us out of the game. It's a shame about the pain, the secret that kills us. Don't let that pain kill you guys. Don't let it destroy you from the inside out. Don't allow other people's issues and problems keep you from playing the game, right? Because ultimately, it's not their life that they're destroying. They came in and wrecked your world, and now they get to carry on with theirs. Meanwhile, you're picking up all the pieces. And you can just wallow in the brokenness and sit there with shattered glass all around you and just staring at it and overwhelmed and hurt and pain and just look at it for the rest of your life, not wanting to pick up the pieces in fear of, pricking your hands, causing more cuts. Meanwhile, the other people get to walk around and enjoy life, right? They come in and break you and shatter you and turn your world upside down, and they get to carry on. It's your choice then whether you sit there or if you do the work. And yes, you're going to get cut when you're putting the mirror back together. When you're putting the broken pieces of glass back together, there's going to be cuts. And there's going to be wounds that are reopened. And that's okay. It's okay because what comes on the other side of it is freedom. It doesn't matter how small or insignificant you feel. You'll always affect more people than you realize. And our existence has the capability to change the life of at least one human. And that person will never forget you. This pain that we feel, I don't like to say it's for a reason, because when I look back at so many instances in my life, it pains me to feel like it was done on purpose. At the same time, I can't change my past, but I can use it in different situations. And so much has happened to me, which is why I love to do what I do and podcast and talk to women, because I can relate to so many of you, because I can relate to those who struggled with, drugs and substances to, like void out feelings and emotions and situations. And then I can also relate to those who struggled in their marriages. And then I can, because you didn't know any other way, or just because marriage is hard. And then I can, relate to those who had, different issues in pregnancy. I can relate to I can relate on so many levels with so many different people, because I was given this insight, this empathy, this compassion at such a young age all through my life. So when you feel insignificant and you're looking at your baggage, your pain, your trauma next to you, and it's just piled high, know that you can use that for something. There is healing. You have power. Even if you hadn't gone through anything, guys, we impact so many people every day. We impact people who, like, at Aldi, I leave the little coin in the cart for the next person. Do you guys know how much of a big deal it is when you have like a toddler in your hand and a diaper bag and all the things, and you like don't have a quarter in your hand readily available for your shopping cart, and you're like trying to search through all the things? Just how much easier just that one little simple action you did makes a mom just be like, it's one less thing, one less burden she has to carry. Or, you know, when you like just to open the door for somebody, all these little things that we do every day have the hugest impact on everybody around us. Love deeply, guys, and love freely. Letting go of control, because control suffocates. I just did a live, if you guys didn't see in the Facebook group, join it. Oh my gosh. I did a controlled chaos challenge about how you can still feel in control without being completely in control, because controlling and trying to manipulate and micromanage all the outcomes and all the moves and the day-to-day is suffocating. It will suffocate your relationships. It will disable you from truly living in the moment and experiencing true joy in simple experiences, because we're trying to control all the things. Anyways, I did a live in the Facebook group about it. So if you haven't seen it, go join the So She Grows Mom community on Facebook. I talk about it. I'm going to go in there every week and do some different sort of training. So make sure you join us. Faith taught me forgiveness. Like I've talked to you guys so many times throughout this journey of mine, I held on to all this pain that others caused me, and it did them no pain. It just caused me more pain, more grief, more sadness, more sorrow, all these things. And so I learned that I don't have to forget, because I will never forget, but I can choose to forgive people. I can forgive my parents for doing things that they didn't know. They did what they could with what they had, right? How their parents taught them, or the lack of parents. Like they just showed up the best way that they knew how, even if it wasn't, you know, sunshine and white picket fences. But now I can move forward with that, and I can do better, and I could do differently, and I can forgive them. I have a good relationship with my parents, and it is what it is. And it's because I know that they may never be the people that I can go to for certain things. And lastly, my last advice to you would be, if we take control of the narrative, calling our abusers, calling the situation as it is, that allows us to stop making excuses for the people and the situations that hurt us and reassign responsibility to them and not us. There are many times that I could have said, you know what, like the guys that I were dating that, you know, mentally, physically, whatever, abused me, it was because their parents didn't teach them any better. And no, we know right or wrong. We have the choice every day to show up, and no matter what the you know details are, or the whatever, you can like dig deep into it. No, they did that to me. That is not my badge to wear. That's theirs. Hopefully they can find healing and they don't do it to somebody else. But now my only responsibility is to move forward and heal and be the best person that I can be, and to use it at the healing and benefit and use it for good, right? Use my bad experiences for somebody else's good. All right, guys, I hope that was interesting. I wanted to do this in the best way possible, that I wasn't just like wah, 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 wah the whole time. But I also want you guys to know where my heart comes from, where I come from, why I'm so passionate about what I do, why I feel like I have so much insight in all these different areas and aspects of life. Because when I was like 7, I was already like 14, right? Like I was already exposed to so many things that it was ridiculous. Oh my gosh. And there are so many things I didn't even share within this podcast, because it would be hours and hours and hours long. So I don't mean to offend anybody by sharing my story. My family certainly doesn't know that I'm doing this. I don't blame anybody for anything. Life is life. My responsibility now is just to heal from my experiences. You can't deny me of my experiences. I can't deny you of yours. I just want you to heal from them, to feel empowered to do so, to let go of the badges that aren't yours to wear, somebody else's, and to know that you are worth the healing that is necessary. You're capable of the healing. You're strong. You're amazing. I want to empower you. If you can relate in any way, I want you to reach out to me. I want you to tell me that this was helpful, either just for insight of who I am or insight of who you are, or that you feel seen. I hope that you continue to hang out here, because this is probably going to be the most depressing episode I ever do, and the last, hopefully. Y'all, that has taken me years to be able to tell a story without getting rolled into the tide on all that stuff. It's heavy. It's taken me years. So if you hear and relate and you're like, wow, and you want to be there tomorrow, it takes time, but it's worth the time. Lastly, because my husband listens to this episode, babe, I want to dedicate this to you. I'm so grateful for you to encourage me to step out of my comfort zone, share all the things that I am, and encourage me in all the gifts that I've been given through the experiences that I've had, and to be my number one fan and my number one cheerleader, and the person that will always walk through me through all the things, through healing, and that you were willing to step up to the plate and heal as one, and be married together and do the work and have an amazing, awesome marriage. I owe a lot to you, and I'm so grateful for you. For everybody else, we're gonna wipe away the tears. We're gonna gather ourselves together. We're gonna have an awesome rest of our week. I hope you guys are having an awesome week. I truly appreciate all the listeners. I hope you continue to subscribe and listen in, and I will catch you again next time. Bye, guys.